Hi there. So I'm back, and this is the second video in this series. The last video was the first one, and I talked about the idea of these stories of being too much, and I talked a lot about rage and how we have the right to our anger and our rage, and then today I'm going to talk about the stories of not enough, right? Which usually have the qualifier of not good enough in there, right? So there is this weird dichotomy of being too much and not enough all at once. And it's a very special thing in our culture, right? So I already talked about when we're too much, right? So today we're talking about when we're not enough. And we're not enough, it's about the not measuring up, right? It's the comparing ourselves to the Joneses kind of thing, right? And how everyone else always has a clean house. Everyone else's children always behave. Everyone else has more money. Everyone else has a better car. Everyone else's marriage is perfect. Everyone, right? Right? Ours, all of that is our life isn't good enough, and it doesn't measure up at all. Sorry, I've seen weird shadows on my eye. Um, and and those stories start at a young age, just like the stories of being too much do, right? I believe these stories of not being enough didn't start with us, right? They don't start with our generation. They don't start with our mothers. They don't start with our grandmothers. I really believe this stuff has been passed down for millennia, right? This is not some new phenomena of the 21st century, or even the 20th century, right? This has been going on for a very long time, right? So when we're not enough and we don't measure up, we start putting a list of shoulds on ourselves. We do this with the too much too, like we should be quieter, we should be more polite, we shouldn't be so opinionated, right? We do that too with the too much, and I think that we really do it, like we really, really get into those shoulds when we're trying to measure up. We should eat right. We should exercise more. We should be a size 2. We should be quieter. We should be less opinionated. We should, right? I mean, right? All those shoulds, right? Because we don't measure up because we're not good enough for whatever the thing is. Usually, what the thing is approval and acceptance and love. Conditional love, right? Because if we have to measure up to earn love, that's conditional. That's not being accepted for who we are. Conditional love, another thing that goes, back millennia, right? And I believe that originally these ideas that were taught to us, again, were a way of surviving, right? If we act meek and mild, we're not a threat. And if we're not a threat, we won't be killed, right? So, but then when we're acting meek and mild, then we're not good enough to do these bolder, braver things, whatever they are, right? When we push ourselves beyond what a human being can do to measure up, and I've been there, done that, right? I know that I've talked about in the past in circles, on my blog, in my newsletter, like I've talked about this a lot, how there was a point after my daughter was born, she was about 2.5, that I came close to a psychotic break. Like, I'm not exaggerating, and I'm truly not being dramatic. I was on the edge of losing my fucking mind, like completely. There were health issues that were involved, and those health issues, while some were probably created from pregnancy, just because pregnancy changes our bodies, a lot of it was from the internalized stress that I had to be all the things now that I was a mother and working in the corporate world and trying to keep climbing that ladder and wanting to connect to my daughter and having my own issues with my relationship with my mother that were in some ways resolved, some ways unresolved. And, right, I mean, there was a lot, and it was taking its toll on me physically and emotionally and psychologically. And I tried so hard. I was getting by on 3-4 hours of sleep a night for years, right? And it wasn't because my baby didn't sleep. Guys, she was the best sleeper on the freaking planet. Like, I totally lucked out with that first one. It was that I was staying up late working because I would try and get home at a reasonable hour to spend a few hours with my kid. But then all the work still needed to be done, right? And it was all the extra work because I had to really prove that I wasn't getting behind because now all of a sudden I was a mother, right? It was all this needing to measure up. Excuse me for a moment. There's a pop-up came up that's just annoying, and I need to make it go away. Bye-bye. So we all have those stories, right? Maybe not all of us have been on the edge of a psychotic break. And many of us have felt that deep internal pressure that we have to work harder to measure up. And we have to be doing all the things. All the things. I didn't have a wife at home to take care of all the things. This is not being disrespectful to my husband, who is an amazing husband. He definitely does his part of the work in this house. He helps with housework. He's my co-parent. We raise our children together. That has nothing to do with him. It has to do with, I had this story that I couldn't let him do stuff. I had to do it all. I had to prove, I don't know to who, but I had to prove that I could do it all. And I think a lot of us have those stories of needing to measure up, of not feeling good enough. And yes, these stories can come from our life experience. They can come from being growing up poor. They can come from growing up female. And, people of color have these stories that are, entrenched in them too. We have, if we have learning disabilities of any kind or learning challenges, then there's those stories of how, we're dumb or we're not as smart or, right? I mean, there's all these stories out there about how we're not good enough for whatever reasons. Or whatever multiple of reasons, right? And we're told them over and over and over, and we internalize them, and we start to believe them, just like we start to believe we're too much. We start to believe we're not enough, and we create our list of shoulds. And we can kill ourselves with that list of shoulds. Truly. We can drive ourselves literally insane with that list of shoulds. And then we're the hysterical female. Right? So, like with being too much, I don't have an answer, right? Other than to say fuck you to the system, accept yourself as you are, and work to help others accept themselves as they are, right? Not being judgmental about other women and their homes, their children, their child rearing, their marriage. I mean, whatever the thing is, right? Not being catty. Um, and I was a pro catty girl in my younger years. So, I get it, right? I have torn women down, and it's not something I'm proud of at all. I can look back and go, oh, well, that was my 20s, right? And okay, there is a bit of life experience, developmental stuff that is part of that. Maybe, right? Maybe. This is probably the story I told myself a lot. And the truth is, our culture doesn't want us bonded with other women. It wants us tearing each other down because it makes the job of the patriarchal culture that much easier. If we're at each other's throats, right? They can go and do whatever it is they go and do, right? And it's a they, right? Whoever they are. Whoever benefits from this, right? And there's a lot of people who benefit. And frankly, I am one of the people who benefits in some ways from a patriarchal culture. Yes, I'm a woman and I'm a white woman, right? There's things that I benefit from. Absolutely. I get it. I know that, right? I understand privilege. And, right? And I'm still a woman. And I'm still told I'm too loud. And I still have this story of not being a good enough mom. Actually, I don't really have that story anymore, or it's not nearly as loud as it used to be. Crops up every now and then, right? As they do. And as we do this work, as we dig into the stories, as we start to become aware of how much these stories impact us, right? Of how we're frantically running around trying to be the best at all the things because it's what we have to do to prove our worth. Once we start cluing into that game and recognizing that game for what it is, we can start to step out of it bit by bit and go, you know what? Dishes aren't getting done today. Oh well, right? And it's little things like this, right? It's not always like it doesn't have to be this huge giant step of all of a sudden you wake up one day and you feel totally worthy and deserving of all the things, right? It's doing the little things. It's saying, okay, you know what? I get to go to the bathroom with the door closed. Your moms know exactly what I'm talking about, right? I get to lock the door, and they can stand outside that door and they can bang on it, and God, it's going to annoy the living crap out of me. And yes, it would be easier to just open the door. But you know what? I deserve 5 minutes to go to the bathroom by my damn self. Right? My husband has never had any qualms about closing and locking the bathroom door when he goes to the bathroom. Never. Why do I? Why have I? I don't know. But why have I in the past? Why has that been a thing? Right? So, we deserve 5 minutes to go to the bathroom by ourselves. And we start there, right? We can start there with the little things, the quote, little things that are really huge. They really are huge. Don't think for a second that that's not huge. Making that boundary. So that's another thing that not being good enough does, right? Is it, and being too much too. It makes us say, oh, I can't set boundaries Because then I'm being a bitch, or I'm not being kind, or I'm not being giving enough, I'm not being generous enough, I'm not, right? And we get eaten alive. And we're constantly giving to everyone else. And we don't go to the bathroom with the door closed for 5 damn minutes. Or less, right? I mean, I don't know, 3 minutes, however long it takes to pee, right? Whatever. What does that say? We don't deserve 5 minutes? What does that say? What message do we keep giving to ourselves? And what message are we giving to our children and our girl children when we don't take those 5 minutes? That then will eventually grow into 10, into 15, into a half hour, into a half day to ourselves, into a full day, into a weekend retreat, into, right? Into whatever the thing is that is fulfilling for us. The night out with our girlfriends. One of the hardest things for me with my oldest was letting anyone else take care of her. Now, there's some irony here because she was in daycare when she was about 15 months until she was almost 3. So she was in daycare. But beyond daycare, like, I couldn't let anyone else watch my kid. It stressed me out. Anytime my husband and I would have a date night, because we were swapping childcare with another couple, I would we've got to rush through dinner. Like, we can't be more than 2 hours. We've got to get back. She's going to shrivel up and die, apparently, right? My second one, I'm like, oh, I guess I probably shouldn't leave for a week if he's still nursing, right? I mean, I'm not kidding. That's it's totally night and day where I'm at. And a lot of that is my own journey in setting boundaries and things not being okay. And I've set much firmer boundaries with my son, who's my younger one, than I did with my daughter. And I see how it has affected her. And so I'm having to do some backpedaling and repair work with her to help her with setting boundaries and understanding the importance of them, because I didn't do it when she was little. My little guy, sometimes I go too far with setting the boundaries. And you know what? We'll see what I have to fix when he gets older, right? So, which is another part of this lesson, right? Another part of this story of not being good enough is that we do the best we can in the moments. And it's okay. If we're doing the best we can, it's good enough. And there will be time to fix if we need to fix. I yell at my kids sometimes. And I apologize. Once I've calmed down, I go back and I apologize. I yell at my husband sometimes. I go back and apologize, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? We get to be human. We get to feel our emotions. We're not bad people because we feel things, because we express things. We're not good enough because things frustrate us, right? We should be calmer, right? That's another one. We should be happy all the time. Fucking bullshit, man. No way. It's not how life works. So, I hope that you enjoyed this one. I hope that you will take some time to really think about, what are your stories of not enough, right? Of not good enough. Where did they come from, do you think? How do you feed them yourself? What is your list of shoulds? Why is that list of shoulds important? What do you get if you meet that list of shoulds? Like, what do you get out of it? Do you get a cookie? Do you get someone's approval? Is their approval worth your sanity? Right? So, some things to think about. Next video, I will be talking about shame and how it feeds these stories and how it feeds off these stories. And it's just this perpetual snowball of like, bleh. So I'll send that to you in a few days. Sending you love. I hope that you are well, and I'll see you soon.